Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. This is Keys Guide to Freedom. I'm your host, TK. And today we're going to be doing a series called the Blueprint. We're going to talk about science, we're going to talk about history, and we're going to talk about the hustle culture, right? Reclaiming your time, your health, and your wealth, right? Um, the name of this series is called Unemployable. Why the future belongs to entrepreneurs, uh, and why the 9 to 5 is historically an accident. We're gonna dive into it. You ready? Let's go. So most of you guys probably don't know that, like a little over 200 years ago, 80% of Americans was self-employed, right? So I'm talking about after slavery, of course. No, but the majority of the people were actually unemployed. I'm not unemployed, but unemployable. They were entrepreneurs, or self-employed. Remember, during the agriculture age, what happened is you get you a farm, you till your land, and then a lot of times you either sell the goods or services yourself, or you barter with other farmers, and that's kind of how we did business. We was happier. We, we owned our lives, and then something called the Industrial Revolution happened, right? And when the industrial revolution happened, that's what a lot of things started to change, and that's why today less than 10% of the population are considered self-employed or employees, right? But history is starting to repeat itself with the rise of TikTok, AI, uh, e-commerce, things like TikTok Shop and stuff like that. Uh, what's going on is a lot of people are starting to realize that the 8 hours that I was spending at work, or 9, 10 hours a day that I was donating to making a living, I can double that at home, doing something else with an e-commerce or making content. It's not easy, freelancing things. It's not easy, but historically, um, it's worth it. And I want to dive into that right now. So let's talk about the history of work, right? The Industrial Revolution came around and it turned everybody from entrepreneurs into employees, right? And the parallel between the early 19th century and the factory workers, and how before, what happened is, like I said, farming was a hard task. The agricultural age was very difficult. You get up early in the morning, and you pretty much you laboring all day. You're tilling to your land, you're tilling with your animals, your livestock, things of that nature. It was kind of a difficult life. And then as the next generation got older, they're looking like, I don't want to sit on this farm and work my fingers to the bone, right? There got to be a better way. And so what happened was, then you had factories, you had industrial, you had a few big farms. Well, excuse me, a couple of big farms come out and they said, "Hey, listen, tell you what, we sell me your farm, and then you can work for me. And then what will happen is, you, we will kind of make this machine, right? This mass machine. You get the land work, but then I'll pay you a salary. You can go home, you can go about your life, and you can do what you want to do." And for the people who didn't have land, it was a wonderful opportunity to take care of their family, especially after, modern day Jim Crow and things of that nature. It was the opportunity, for everybody, really, for everybody. So what happened was, all of a sudden you had this industrial boom. America, uh, do what they do best. They consolidated. So instead of having, a million different farms, they what they did was, some of the bigger, more professionally ran farms, uh, they end up getting uh, a bigger share of the marketplace. And what happened was that, for the people who didn't, they was like, listen, we make out a deal. You can work for me. You work for me for 20, 30 years. Well, the thing at that time was like 20 years. And then they would introduce retirement. And retirement was something that was never on the table. Usually you just work, until your kids take over, or, unfortunately, until you go away, until you pass away. But with the Industrial Revolution, which is, really came in with the baby boomers, was, hey, listen, You can have a job, you get a set schedule, right? First it was 12 hours, then it was too, it was too much. People were just, what the productivity was dying down. Then it was 10 hours, and then sometime in the early 19th century, we end up switching to the 8-hour work week and eight hours and 5 days a week. So what that did was that gave people a sense of relief. Like, hey, listen, I can donate my time. I don't have to be here all day. I can actually go out, have a life. I can be home in time to play with the kids and things of that nature, right? And then when we switched into big business and corporate, it just kind of carried over. And from those things, that's how we had the modern school day system, right? Think about it. Schools was designed around the industrial era. That way, you can always make sure that you manufacturing workers, right? I'm not making this up. Rockefeller, if you ever look at the history of Rockefeller family, they the ones who did this. I don't want thinkers, I want workers. So they created the modern day school system, which is mirroring to what our corporate America is, where you go and a series of bells and whistles dictate. You sit down and you be quiet, and you just sit down and you do your work. You line up in straight line. I remember, I'm gonna tell a funny story. So I remember when I was working at Home Depot, and when I was in my early mid 20s. I was working at Home Depot, and I remember it used to like grind my gears because everybody would sit by the punch in machine, right? The machine that you clock out and clock out in, and they would be waiting for the time that they shift is over to clock out. Now, mind you, they're not on the floor, they're not being productive at all. And for me, it just never really made sense. Like, why are we sitting here watching this clock? And if you clock out too early, you got dinged, you got a point. And if you get too many points, of course, you get rolled up. You get rolled up too many times, you lose your job. But just sitting in a break room with a line of people waiting to, it just, for me, it was mind blowing. It was just like, I don't like this. Like, if I want to clock out, just clock it. So I was always the one to go in, I'll take the point. You know what I mean? Eventually, of course, I lost the job, but I didn't care because it just really just made no sense for grown people to sit there and wait for a machine to tell them to go home. But that's just me. That's why I'm unemployable. But what it did was it gave people advantage. So what we see with the baby boomers, which is my parents' generation, was they worked, and then after a certain time they got retired and they got paid for life, which was cool in theory. But what happened was, which is now, hindsight is 2020. We understand that what the employers, excuse me, what the employers understood is the people usually end up perishing, um, 2 years after, 2 to 3 years after retirement. So it wasn't really a issue with them retiring because they knew they're gonna sit at home, do nothing, and their usefulness in life is gone. So they end up passing away a couple of years after retirement. So pitching wasn't a thing. Up until now, we have modern science and all this technology and information. People are living a lot longer, so that's why you see it's such a issue with Social Security. And now, if you ever go to any local Walmart, you always see an elderly retired person sitting there, as a greeter at Walmart because they got to do something. Uh, they didn't account for inflation. All of these little mechanisms that kicked in are now making it really difficult for people to really retire, even if they wanted to travel. Now it's not enough money because here's the myth about retirement that we don't know. I'm not saying retirement is not something that you can do, but here, if you follow me, you understand that your freedom is it's a number, it's an amount of money that you can make, that you can earn, passively, residually, whatever, that will replace your income, right? One thing that wealthy people do is they replace, they make their money work for them, so they don't have to spend their time. Because if you watch my last episode, we know that time is the most valuable thing. It's the one thing that you will never get back, right? Once you spend, whether 5 minutes, 10 minutes, Once you spend it, it's gone. You never get it back, right? If you was in a relationship and you stayed there for 3 years and it crumbled, you can never get that back. And you understand that after a heart, like, damn, I wasted all this time with this moron, or I wasted all this time with this chica, and nothing happened. It's just life. So your time is valuable. So your money is not. I mean, it's an exchange of value, but it's not more precious than your time at all, or your health, right? So what the wealthy do is they understand that, hey, I'm going to make my money work for me. I'm going to put my money into mechanisms that allow me to make money while I'm sleeping, while I'm with my kids, while I'm with my wife or with my husband or whatever. And that is the boom that we're going on today with e-commerce and things of that nature, right? So what we're having right now is a rebirth of the self-employed or the entrepreneurs, right? I talked a little bit earlier in the beginning about the creator economy, right? You have TikTok Shop, you have Amazon FBA, right? These are technically the new factories, right? But the thing is now you're leveraging the internet, which is open 24/7, right? I remember a mentor said to me a long time ago that one of the keys to building wealth and being free financially with your time and having, your life is having buttons on the internet, right? The more buttons you have on the internet, and the more, you bring traffic to those buttons or attention to those buttons, the likelihood of you achieving your goal of financial freedom. And and there's no other group right now that's tapped into that like Gen Z. I have to give them credit, right? Gen Z get a lot of backlash about being unemployed, unemployable. I was watching, I was listening to, not listening to, I was reading this article. Uh, I think it was Forbes, but they were saying how Gen Z is the worst uh, worker. Uh, Forgot the word. Bunch. I'm just going to use bunch because whatever. Um, in history, right? They were, ragging on like, they don't know how to do this, they don't know how to do that. But I'm gonna push back a little bit, and I understand what they were saying because I'm every day. You go to Starbucks, the person's a little more rude, not as friendly at all. They have what is social batteries and things of that nature, which is hilarious to someone like me. It's like, what, social battery? Like, no, we're social creatures. It's good to socialize. But what they did tap onto is how to uh, how to make money online. So there's some data that came out and said that Gen Z wanted to, 50% of Gen Zs, their goal in life is to be some type of influencer or entrepreneur, right? Which is funny because it's kind of like, how the pendulum is swinging. So we had the baby boomers was like when it was at its peak of employees. Now you're starting to see it swing back into entrepreneurship, right? Which is amazing. It is an amazing thing, and I'm here for it. I'm taking part of it too because when I look at it, I see that the future isn't unless you work in a trade. I'm not gonna say that, but there's going to be a lot of things coming up in the next, 2, 3, 4 years that is going to really like, unless you have some real skills or you really understand AI or you really understand prompting or, all of this new technology, it's going to be really hard to just skate by at some regular job, right? Which is sad in a sense, but all of these new technologies breed new opportunities. So even though there was reported that I think it was like 90, 75%, something like 75, 85%, 85 or something. Don't quote my math, but it was somewhere between 80 and 90% of the um, current jobs of today are going to be gone in the next 5 to 10 years. But with what's coming, 95 is going to be 95. I think it was like a 13% increase. So the jobs that are lost are not only going to be replaced, but it's going to add 13% uh, new opportunities. And a lot of those, you're going to see them kind of like the gig work, right? Like a freelance contract day to day. Because, um, on the show, we always talk about cryptocurrency, blockchain technology. But what we don't talk about as a whole is how all these things are interconnected, and the interconnection of all of these things are breeding to a new economy, right? A new digital economy, right? People are making more money as digital creators, whether it's art, whether it's content, whether podcasts and even singing and selling just things on the internet. People are making more money on a TikTok live than they doing a month and working for some if and that's if you have a decent job, you know what I mean. So the opportunity is happening right in front of our eyes, right? We look at the dollar and it's getting weak and all of that things, but those things are going away because they have to. What you also see is the rise of cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies and all of these things, and it sounds crazy when you look at them as individual things, but when you look at it as a whole, you realize that, hey, the world as we know it is changing, but a new one is coming in, is taking its place, and is allowing us to have these things, to sit up, spend maybe an hour or two or four just um, putting maximum effort in, and then having 20 hours left in your 24-hour day to enjoy your life as you want to, and still provide enough income where you can just do what you want. And with the internet, now you have the nomads coming in, where people, if where they at is too expensive, then they're like, hey, listen, I can go live in Bali, or I can go to Belize, or I can go to Taiwan. I can go, I can go to. They have options. They can live all over the world as long as you got internet access. You can do your thing, and then go have a life. Go explore and do what God intended us to do. So I'm not saying it as doom and gloom. This is not, oh, your job sucks. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying that there's science behind it, right? There's studies show that self-employed people have reported a higher life satisfaction, even with the risks, right? And the reason why is because you can control your life. When you don't have to ask somebody, hey, can I go to, or hey, can I take a family vacation for a week? You can just go. All that anxiety, or I don't want to have to sit in traffic, and I don't like Betty, or Craig, he be weird towards me. You know what I'm saying? Like all of those things get taken out of your life, and you can just surround yourself with the people that you love, right? So there is something to it, right? I know, like I talk with my kids all the time because me and my wife, we're not traditional. We don't have a traditional job. I was talking to my brother. We was laughing because I went and left and went outside. I had to go visit my parents or something, and it was during rush hour traffic. And and I'm shocked, like, damn, it's rush hour. That's why. And he was like, you don't. I'm like, I don't do rush hour traffic. And he started laughing. He owns his own barbershop, so he laughed too. Like, yeah, you're right. We haven't did traffic in years. Like, yeah, you know, like I don't, I move to a different beat, so it is fun. Like when we wake up, we have coffee, we laugh and joke, talk about what we're gonna do for our day, and then we'll go disappear. We might meet back up a couple of times, hang out, laugh, see each other's progress. But it's a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing. I can drop my kids off and pick them up if they gotta go to a field trip or a field day. It's no problem. What day is it? Oh, it's tomorrow. Okay, I don't have to call in, so the stress level is not there as far as I'm missing my kids. And then it wasn't always like that. I've have been in situations where when I was working, I was on salary, so I would have to get to the office first, and then I'll be last one leave. I'm sitting and eating at my desk, which is not good for you either, right? You sitting down at the desk eating all day. It's just bad for you. It's just bad for your health. You need to be out in nature. And we're going to talk about that more on the next episode. But right now, I just wanted to kind of hone in that that pendulum is swinging. So if you're having problems finding work, because I see a lot of times on TikTok people was like, man, have you tried to find a job, right? And here's the catalyst, and I'm gonna say this: it's gonna get worse before it gets better, but it's already getting good. You know what I mean? If it's hard for you to seek employment or find employment, and you have a smartphone, you can in one day with $1, a lot of times for free, you can open up your e-commerce store, a Shopify store. You can get products drop shipped. You don't even have to pay for them. You know what I mean? And a lot of these things have trials where you don't even have to come out of money out of pocket right away. So here's my catalyst. You should tap into that. Now we have AI marketing systems and things of that nature. If you're shooting content, there's AI, all kind of AI created uh, things that can push your content to all your social media channels with a push of a button. So this economy is doing good. Of course, you got to make good content, right? You can't just be out here just BSing. But this is a golden era that we're going into. So whatever you're going through with, with current situation, you have gig work, there's all kind of things that you can do in the short term to supplement your income. But there's also things that you can do in the long term that would change your life, right? So I just wanted to bring that to notice. This is TK. I'm TK. This is the Keys Guide to Freedom. Uh, Let me know what you guys think. Please like, comment, and I'll see you on the next one. We're going to be talking about better health. All right. Take it easy, you guys. Peace out.